Welcome to the next video in the Fortnite from scratch tutorial series. So hopefully if you've watched the previous videos, we've got a basic understanding that we want to be shooting around right hand peaks or through right hand, right? Edits and right hand peak opportunities. The next thing we want to start thinking about is how can we get the builds down at the best times to give us opportunities to either shoot round the side of the wall or over an edit. And the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to plan before we attack how we're actually going to defend ourselves. So like, let's say for instance there's a guy around the corner. You want to shoot them. You need to ask yourself, okay, well, how can I quickly shoot and protect myself? What would be the best thing to do? So we've got a couple of options. We can either edit it open and reset. That's a little bit harder. Easiest thing to do is to just shoot and then put a wall down. And if you get this wall down quickly enough, then ideally you hit them, but your wall blocks their shot. Now, a little trick to get your wall down super quickly: if you have buttons that are the kind of normal buttons, and really importantly, you need to have reset building choice here on. Then when you shoot with R2 or right trigger, depending if you're on Xbox or PlayStation, if you keep that held in, because that's also your wall button, when you swap to build mode, it will instantly place the wall. So it'll look like this. Nice and quick. And so you can just get a right hand peek over and over again, even at the top, at every angle. That is an insane trick. Very, very quick. All you do is squeeze in your trigger, leave it squeezed in, press build mode. Now, the reason you need reset building choice on is because what that does is, even if I've just put a ramp down, if I change back to build mode, it pulls my walls out. If I take that off, and I've just put a wall down, now that it's doing the wall, I get walls back out when I get it back out. Now the problem is, because ramp isn't the same button as shoot, when I try it this time, I'm holding the trigger still, it doesn't place it because of the difference. So the reason why we put the reset building choice on is because regardless of what the last thing I put down was, it always gets my wall back out every time. And so it means that no matter what you've just been doing, even if the last thing you pushed was a cone, you still put the wall down. So this is your best friend and the main trick, right? And this can also be used, instead of going round, if someone's trying to take your wall, in the moment that they take your wall, you can try and shoot them, and if you hold the wall, it will put your one back, right? If somebody's wall is weak because they keep editing it, it gets weak enough to break. Shooting and replacing walls is the same as shooting them, putting them down. So if you could just get into the habit of quickly tapping your build button and then tapping it again, so that if there is a wall that can be placed, it's placed after your shot. That's an amazing habit to get into. Sadly, we can't do that with all of the build pieces. Mouse and keyboard players can, but we can do it with wall because we share shoot and wall on the same thing. They can just use click, hold down, click, and then they can click to shoot, and then click to just hold the click in and press whichever key builds whichever build piece they want. Sadly for us, it doesn't work. But anyway, the wall's the main one to do it with. So that's the main thing. And so obviously you need to be asking yourself, well, if I do put a wall down, is it going to protect me? Now, if I'm standing, you have to realize that the Fortnite thing is a grid, right? See, there are squares on the floor. And depending on where you are in the square, when you put a build piece down, different things happen. So, for instance, if you're standing here, when you put a ramp down, you're going to be on top, right? But if you stand Here, when you put a ramp down, you're underneath it. Now, that doesn't seem like a massive difference, but can you see where we are relative to the middle line, just over it? If you step ever so slightly further back, and you're just before the middle line, and you put the ramp down, you phase, right? And the ramp's not solid. So, in theory, if you were facing this wall, and you stood where I'm standing now, and the person runs into your box, and you're just in front of the middle line, and the person runs into your box and they put a ramp down trying to mongrel classic you, or trying to put a ramp over your head, then you now phase the ramp. They go to edit it. It doesn't even work. You can't edit a phased ramp, but it still lets you try. So they're going to try and edit thin air. We're going to pop them. The ramp then goes full hardness. So you've got a free hot shot and protection. Fantastic, right? Equally, if you're standing at the very back of a box and you put a ramp down, you need to be careful that it phases again because your feet break through it. Now this is great because you can shoot someone. You can even open and edit. Shoot them through there, but you've got to be careful that if you're in a box and you decide to put a ramp down for a second, especially if you flip it like this, if you don't jump, someone's going to be able to tag you. So if you're standing there and you flip something like this, better jump if you don't intend to phase it. But you've got to be thinking about your positioning. Equally, let's say you edit through a box here. Now, I'm not saying we'd be doing this straight away, but let's say I want to put a ramp behind me. If I look down and I put the ramp now, it will phase me, but then when I run through, it's going to fully form behind. So actually learning the point where I go, there, oh no, it was too early, I push up, as here, it was right, and it let me go through. And that's kind of central to, you know, some side jumps. You need to know that if you land here, you're going to be underneath this ramp, as if you land here, you're going to be on top of it, right? That makes a big difference to, do I want to be here now? If I jump, I'm going up. If I crouch, I'm going down. Which side of this ramp do I want to be? That is obviously something that ideally I would have decided before, right? Rather than ending up in a phase and being shot without having protection from either side. That's probably the worst scenario you could be in there. But you've got to understand that. You've got to understand that a side jump out to, say, a point that's here will do you a different job than if you jump out to a point that's over here, right? Behind the ramp instead of on top of it. And these kind of differences make a very, very big difference. And so in the most obvious example, if I'm standing here and I'm standing behind the middle line of this square I'm in now, and I shoot and put a wall down, it's going to go along this line and it's going to protect me. So, yeah. If I do it and I'm standing kind of around here-ish, it will start putting it along this line, not this one, unless I'm looking really far down. You can actually see, boom, from where the blueprints go, right? So if you run up to someone and you do that, you might be okay. But if you get that a second too late and you do it here, and they're standing in the box in front of you, you're dead. So obviously one good habit you can always get into is just always shoot and put a ramp down and a wall. I didn't even do it right, but that then means if they're too close, the ramp protects you. If they're far, the wall protects you. But that can get messy. Sometimes you put ramps above your head. It can get annoying. The reality of the situation is you do need to know where you are on the grid. And you need to know, okay, here, too far, here, close enough, right? And once you can gain a sense of that, you can then be like, right, okay, I can't run all the way to this far forward, because if I then did shoot here, it would put the wall over there. But if I can come around this corner and you get a sense of how you're going to protect yourself. Now, I would always favour trying to move into an unpredictable position and shooting and putting a wall down over trying to edit one open, shooting and resetting, because it is just harder, right? And unless you're going to jump and move around as you look over to the reset, I don't know, It's much easier to predict where someone's going to be when they're doing that versus when they're jumping out at some random angle and putting a wall down straight after their shot that you didn't really expect. And so that sort of, it does make it a little bit difficult because you can't hard push in exactly the same way. You can't really be jumping into people's boxes, right? Because the second I jump into someone's box, I know that apart from maybe a ramp, I've got no more pieces to defend me anymore because my walls are all at that distance. My floors and roof are too far away. If they're in the box with me, the two pieces at my disposal are obviously cones or ramps. Now I don't know. There's probably cones are. It depends how good you are at editing. It's not clear which one's better, but different people have different preference. But really, what you ideally want to be doing, once we're past obviously the most powerful and obvious one, which is always shooting, if you are going to be closer than someone shooting and putting a wall down, so you do get into the box, you need to instantly ask yourself, once I fire, how am I protecting myself? And your answer most of the time is shoot, jump, ramp. If you can get into the habit of going every single time you see someone, oh, that is the one. That gives you a chance. Even if they do end up on top of the ramp with you, they'll be so surprised and it will have changed their position so much they'll probably mess up their shot. But if you're moving into an open space, put the wall, if they come into your box, that's pretty good practice. Yeah, when you're close in. Oh no, they're coming in. Those are your two main moves. And then obviously once they've got the ramp, if you can, you maybe want to do an edit, shoot, and then try and reset it. Resetting, I think at first, don't even think about that. I'd rather you just went, shot, they came into your thing, put the ramp down, and then I'd rather you literally just jumped out and did the same again. Let's not even really focus on resetting too much at the moment. Just get into the habit of thinking, how could I move so that when I then put build pieces down afterwards, it's going to block your shot? Obviously, again, with cones, I suppose you could put a cone down and do things like, slower versions of stuff like that to try and surprise them. It does involve looking down quite a lot, as when you're editing staircases, you can sort of keep a reasonably good sense of them. Even if you've got edit on release, as with edit on release, you might accidentally select tiles you didn't mean to on a cone if you look up, because it's easier to select the tiles on the cone, obviously. So I'd say really think about just getting into the habit of shooting the wall, and if people are close, shoot, jump, ramp. And then obviously, if you can, get creative with it. You've just shot someone with a wall. Let me go. Right? Or equally, if someone has come into your box, bearing in mind often they'll spray your ramp, right? If you put a ramp down, especially if you've just shot them. If someone comes through your wall and you go, they're going to spray that ramp, just wait for them to break the ramp. As soon as the ramp breaks, you're like, and just put it back again. Just keep doing that over and over again. Let them break your ramps until eventually they will probably go for a break and replace the ramp themselves. And then the second you do that spray, the second the ramp breaks, boom, put your ramp back. Just get into the point where you can control a ramp in a box with somebody else. Buy yourself a bit of time. Give yourself a way to escape if you need one. Give you an opportunity to think if there's any outplay that you can make that might surprise them. But whatever you do, find a way to protect yourself. And obviously the best thing is to maintain a little bit of distance and just go over and over again. Just get a little bit further away from them. You see someone, just try and create right hand peek after right hand peek after right hand peek. You just rinse this one trick. Like, it's so powerful. And obviously if you get it right, you see somebody, You shoot them, they don't shoot you. What the first thing you do after is you instantly edit and open and just rush them because you got a free trade and you've done them damage they haven't done you. They're terrified, and the last thing, they're hoping you don't edit on them. They're very, very unlikely to just be ready to punt. They're probably thinking about healing and how the hell they're going to deal with the fact that you keep shooting and putting walls down. Equally, if someone breaks into your box thinking they're going to shoot you and you just go like a robot, just out of habit, you're doing one of those two things. You're giving yourself a chance to trade for free, and free trades is what we're all about. So yeah, so just plan it a little bit, and the kind of the main situations you're thinking of, right? Let's say perfect situation, and this is you're going to need to do the thinking yourself for the most part, but obviously if you're on top of them after you shoot, put a wall down, right? If you're here, what you want to be doing is you want to make this wall yours, so they can't just go out a right-hand peak, go out a right-hand peak, right? So you need to make sure that if you're standing here, that's yours, so they can't just edit through that. You then take this wall from here, so that you can see automatically when I go to replace it, if they do run out of this box, rather than standing here, or if they run out the box, I'm dead, right? Or I either have to shoot them or I die. Maybe I can shoot them and put the ramp down, but it's going to be reasonably difficult to time without them hitting me at all. I could maybe shoot them and put a cone down, but again, pretty difficult. Or I could just take the wall from this side, and then if they do run out, boom. So much easier. Now I've got another thing. Now I'm back in the situation where right-hand peaks again. So yeah, always plan out. Where am I standing on the grid? Just give yourself a check before you're about to attack someone. Be like, okay, if I put walls, they're going to be here. Okay. Would that help me? Oh, okay, maybe I need to stand a bit further forward because let's say he's down there. If I shoot him, I want to put walls behind him. Right? You need to know that you're going to put the walls behind him, because if you do that on purpose, that's great. If you do that by accident and you don't build this wall, you're dead. So yeah, so learn a little bit about the grid placement. It's going to affect everything from you know what pieces you put down and where in boxes, which pieces are going to work. There's so much, even in high ground retakes, edit courses, everything is going to be determined by where you are actually on the ramp. Now, I know this isn't the best high ground retakes. I'm actually just practicing while we speak because it kind of makes me think of all the things I need to improve on. But I at the moment when I'm thinking about what I'm doing wrong in fights, even though obviously mechanically I've got a long way to go, if I actually look back over my recent deaths, and I often do, the main things that I'm doing wrong is let's say I'm here and I've just done all this edit coursing, it'll be quite fun, and then there'll be an enemy, like the other side of that wall, yeah. I will run, edit this open, and shoot. And it's like, how is that the best way to go about this? Now I've got to reset to defend myself. The best way would be to put the cone in, edit the cone, right? Now if I go for the shot, I can put the wall down. Now that's not actually more complicated. They both involved an edit. They both were just here. But the smart way of, okay, fine. Right, let me just... There, that's going to get you shot. As if you do that one, at least there, it's easier to get back into cover than this one. And that's why in our first session I was talking about never using this edit. Because although, yes, there is a truth that you could, in theory, do that really, really fast. If you can actually get into the habit of asking yourself, right, in every move I learn, how can I set up a situation where the next one, here, right, pause, the way through you're practicing anything, just practice this, be like, okay, cool, if I wanted to attack somebody that was below me and I wanted to put a piece down, I probably need to run, jump, and shoot and put a floor, so, okay, I messed that up, right? What did I do wrong there? Okay, I was probably a little bit too low when I started pushing the floor. Maybe a cone would be easier. Let me try if I... Okay, cool. right? And then I'll work on that for a bit and think, okay, fine, let's see if cones are consistently better. And obviously they won't be in every situation, but you'll iron it out until you learn that the difference between doing good 90s is that with good 90s, imagine if you did this edit, you run directly up the middle of this. That's the perfect place to do a 90. Doing a 90 here, glitchy, not the best, often underneath. Doing a 90 too far on the edge, you're bouncing into the wall because you're too far. You do the 90 down in the middle, and it's the easiest way. And you can see that. Actually, I don't have pre-edits on. Let me just see if I can do. This would be a really good way, actually, for you to practice not only 90s, but if you can think of any other way that you could apply using a pre-edit. Obviously, I would normally say don't use pre-edits, but let's just say we do this. You should be able to 90. That's a really good way to practice it. And this kind of stuff, although it's annoying, this kind of stuff will actually help you with where you're standing on the grid. Equally, if you're, I don't know how else we could apply that, but I'm sure there's plenty of other ways where, as you're working on, okay, I need to stand in one particular position, right? You could probably temporarily, as long as you remember to take pre-edits off again, because it's so good they finally let us do that. If you can think about ways to check, because obviously, look, the problem is that this is all well and good when we're in a build fight, but if you're out in the open and you're in a fight, you don't necessarily carry that knowledge over, as you've kind of got to know, okay, there's a wall there, right? You got to know, right, I've put a wall, fuck, that means now I'm just on the edge relative to that wall where this wall will place. As if I run around and I get to like here, I'm too far forward. And you need to, that's relative to those two pieces. You've got to kind of save it in your head. You've got to be thinking of the, oh wow, that's embarrassing. You've got to be thinking the grid at all times. And once you can do that, then it massively helps with your editing as well, because where you are relative to an edit will actually decide where you come out of it, which pieces are going to place easiest next, and so on. So, oh, it's not too bad for you buttons. Anyway, if I could give you one piece of advice, just stop changing your buttons. Find the right set and get them the first time, because my catchphrase in my group is, oh my god, I've just changed my buttons again. But I have genuinely changed them something like 40 times in the hope of bringing you guys the ultimate set, and I am probably a week away from confirming to you one last thing. I've got everything right except one button, which I'm not sure whether I've got my cone and my floor the right way around, because I have to do one of them slightly slowly, unfortunately, and I don't know which one I can tolerate being slightly slower, but I'm thinking that awkward as it is right now, cone needs to be the quick one, but we'll have to see, because I keep falling off blooming high ground, not being able to put down my floors quickly enough, so that is a massive pain. Anyway, I will be doing a binds video very shortly where I pretty much explain in loads of detail why I've done everything, because if you have seen my binds, they are very, 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 very strange. But I would actually argue they're probably some of the best thought out binds there are if you're not using floor. Because I have spent no longer than 1 week with the same buttons since Chapter 2, Season 2, in the hope of bringing to you the quickest combination of muscle movements that your hands can capably do on a controller, in the interest of making things like that happen very, very, very quickly. Because genuinely, the difference between what most people do, which is that, or maybe even versus, although that seems, it's evidently faster, but it's not much faster. This is getting hit, taking no damage. This is pretty much wasting your time. This game is about milliseconds. That's why you need to have trained skills like that when someone comes near you. Look, they're far, they're close. Oh, I see, I can't even do it as them. They're close, you need to get... It's just so important. So yeah, tactically think about what builds you're going to place. And always ask yourself, literally at any moment, let's say you're practicing anything, midway through a hard ground retake, stop. Okay, if somebody was above me, how am I actually going to take advantage of this, right? Well, if I do that, and he's above, if I reset this cone, that one above will break, right? So then I reset that. What could I do here? Let's figure it out. How could I don't even necessarily know. How could I don't want to edit because editing is hard. Okay, well the best thing to do is obviously side jump, shoot, on the roof. And obviously if you could catch yourself that would be nice. But you need to preference creative positioning and then whatever build piece will block the shot over editing. Because that is always quicker than obviously. Yeah. So use it to your advantage. See you in the next one.